Hey folks, I'm best-selling author of The Power Zero, David McKnight. In today's video, you'll see part 5 of my conversation with CPA Chris McCormick, in which we discuss whether or not you should complete your Roth conversion by the 2026 tax deadline.
I do want to kind of touch upon the idea of the future tax rate, right? I think in your latest edition of the book, the 2018 version, obviously there was a big tax change in 2017. How has your approach to the Power of Zero and the life insurance retirement plan, how has that probably increased over the past 7 years since the change of that tax change? Obviously, COVID did an impact on that too. Like, where do you find yourself now? If you had to rewrite or maybe even update it for a 2024 version, what would that look like? Would your warnings be greater, the same, lower?
Obviously, the debt has gotten a lot worse since 2018, even more than most experts predicted because of COVID. I mean, we added $6 trillion just because of COVID. I mean, we added $6 trillion in 1 year. It normally takes us 6 years to add that type of debt. And so obviously the debt trajectory is a whole lot worse than it was when I wrote, even when I updated it in 2018. The other thing I would say is in 2018, I made a really big deal about the 24% tax bracket. I call that the sweet spot in the Trump tax cuts. And the reason I say that is because, look, most people that we come across are in the 22% tax bracket. And even Dave Ramsey will say things like, well, you should convert up to the top of your existing tax bracket. Well, the 24% tax bracket is only 2% more than the 22, but it allows you to convert roughly an extra $173,000 or so dollars and only pay 2% more on the margin. I mean, that's, if you got $1 million in your IRA, there's no way you're going to convert all of that to tax-free by staying in the 22% tax bracket. But the 24% tax bracket allows you to convert that extra $173,000 to the tax-free bucket. So you actually now have a realistic chance of sheltering those dollars from the impact of future tax increases. And so, but here we are 2 years before the deadline. We only have 2 years within which to get that money shifted over. So if you've got $1 million in your IRA or even $1.5 million, shifting, I don't know, 200 or 250,000 per year within the next 2 years is not going to do a whole lot for you. And so I focus less on the 2026 deadline and more on what is likely to happen in 2030. Okay. There's a bunch of different people that have predicted various things. There's an economist that I pay attention to by the name of Brian Boulou. He's been advising Fortune 500 companies for the last 30 years with 95% accuracy. He's predicting a Great Depression in 2030. I'm not maybe going to go that far, but certainly tax rates have to rise dramatically in 2030 or things really get messy for our country. David Walker wrote in his book, Come Back America, that effective tax rates would have to double by 2030, and every year the federal government postpones doubling tax rates, it'll just be that much worse down the road. And I talked about the Penn Wharton study where we basically have 20 years through some combination of tax increases or massive reductions in spending. We have to sort of arrest the growth of the national debt, or we slip into that death spiral from which there's no deliverance. So I'm less focused on what's happening in 2026 because, the 22 becomes 25, the 24 becomes the 28. Not such a big deal. It's, minor increases on the margin. We're talking a doubling of tax rates in 2030 and beyond. That's what people should really be worried about. So I will probably update and revise the Power of Zero again prior to 2026. When those the tax cuts expire. But I think the thing that people really have to worry about is not the increase in tax rates in the short term. It's what we're likely to see in the mid to long term.
Okay. No, that's so helpful. And I think a listener, as somebody who's listening to you speak in real time, it can be easy for us to grow fearful. And I think there's some wisdom behind that. But what would you recommend, if anything, to somebody who might be late 20s, early 30s, kind of just getting started in their income years, starting a family, and sees this 6-year trajectory of what some people will say the Great Depression? What are some key takeaways that they should be on the lookout for and looking to implement?
Yeah, I would say the farther out into the future your retirement horizon is, the more you should be thinking about tax-free retirement planning accounts. The more, I mean, tax rates aren't going to go like straight up. I think they're going to go like this. They're going to sort of rise subtly over time to the point where we get, at some point in time, we'll get to double where we are today, which tells you that if you're saving for retirement, you should always be thinking about putting money in tax-free accounts, because the tax you're going to be paying today is always less than the tax you're going to be paying down the road should you defer that tax through a 401k or IRA. And so I think that people, that are younger, just resist the temptation to get that tax deduction. As a country, we're addicted to tax deductions. Mm-hmm. We love the tax deduction. We love getting that tax refund at the end of the year. Resist the impulse to get that tax reduction. Pay the tax today, so that you won't have to, withdraw those dollars at some point way down the road when tax rates almost certainly are going to be much higher than they are today. So that's what I would say. And I would say, take advantage of all of the nooks and crannies in the IRS tax code that they make available to you. Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, Roth conversions, cash value life insurance. Try to also resist the impulse of for example, Dave Ramsey saying all cash value life insurance sucks 100% of the time. Try to resist that impulse. We've shown through math a lot of Monte Carlo studies and scenarios and modeling that we've run, that by using that volatility buffer strategy that we talked about, you can dramatically increase the income you can draw from your assets in retirement. And so that's a big deal. So try to look at the math and science behind what we're talking about, and resist the popular opinions out there from people who maybe haven't really specialized in tax-free retirement planning like we have here at Power Zero. Yeah,
absolutely. And probably speak to somebody who is knowledgeable and like your Power of Zero advisors, somebody who can I'm assuming you guys take a full picture. So like somebody investing in real estate is probably not going to look at the same as somebody who's just working a W-2 or making 7 figures in a business. It all varies.
Right. I mean, the one thing we know is that there's no cookie cutter approach to what we do. Everybody's a little bit different. Yeah. And so the challenge is to try to meet people where they are and take a look at their situation and try to say, what can we do to improve the amount of money they can draw from their assets over the course of a lifetime. And that takes individualized, custom tailored type planning. Mm-hmm.
And so are you meeting with people, or your advisors meeting with people on a regular basis, once a year, once a quarter?
You've got about 250 Power Zero certified advisors across the country, and it takes obviously a while to implement the initial plan, and then you're meeting at least yearly to be able to, because a lot of what we call for is Roth conversions and mm-hmm. shifting money from taxable and tax deferred buckets systematically to tax-free. And that's something that where you have to do things. It's not set it and forget it, right? You have to do things on an annual basis to realize the benefits of the plan. And so that involves some hand-holding and some patience and some tailorized planning.
Okay, folks, that was part 5 of my interview with CPA Chris McCormick. In the next 10 years, I'm looking to put 100,000 Americans on the road to the 0% tax bracket. If you would like some help implementing a balanced, comprehensive approach to tax-free retirement that shields you from the impact of higher taxes down the road, head on over to davemcknight.com and click on the Connect with an Advisor button. I'm happy to refer you to an advisor in the Power Zero network that has been trained, vetted, and qualified personally by me. If you're a financial professional and want to learn how to become a certified Power Zero advisor, head over to powerzero.com and opt into my free video series. And if you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop them into the comment section below. I'll respond to every single one of them personally. And don't forget to click like, subscribe, and the bell so you never miss a video. This is David McKnight. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.